I just want to say that I was proud to be born in Kenya, proud to be from Kenya, right up until I wanted to actually become president of the United States, and then I had to pretend I wasn't from Kenya. But I want to thank all of you to come, and all of you who came here to see me now that I'm back in my home country. I also want to say that myself and my husband, I mean my wife, that Michael and I mean Michelle and I, are so pleasured to be here. Now, I know as acting executive officer of the corporation we call the United States of America, that I was supposed to come here to Kenya to talk about trade, to talk about oil, to talk about the radical Muslim element within this country. But instead, I'm going to talk about things that are near and dear to my heart. First off, I want to thank the President of Kenya for welcoming me here as the president. And I want to ask you as Kenyans to embrace the same immigration policies that I have championed in the United States. And I'm sure that by just opening your borders wide and letting in people from Rwanda and Burundi, now I know you have concerns that they will take machetes and chop you into pieces in your sleep. But I can assure you that America is safer for letting Mexican immigrants, Guatemalan immigrants, Honduran immigrants simply ooze across our border unchecked. It's a wonderful experiment in diversity. It doesn't matter that a few white people get killed and murdered and raped. It's still been a wonderful experiment. And I also want to say that since I have turned America into the United Sodomite States of America as the POTUS, I just want to say that even though I'm supposed to be here talking about other things, I want to tell you how important it is to protect gay people. Now, I know that 5,000 of you have arrived here completely naked to protest my stance on homosexuality. To tell you the truth, Michelle and I are a little bit turned on. That's all I can say. So thank you for that. It's good to see the fine African form in all of its glory. But I'm just saying the most important thing on the agenda of all countries should be allowing lesbians, homosexuals, transgenders, weird Olympic athletes who just want to put on a dress and storm around in high heel shoes. You've got to give them the freedom to just be who they are. As a matter of fact, I'm all for a culture where anyone, anywhere, can stick just about anything up their rectums. Sticks, thumbs, light bulbs, Hot Wheels cars, heck, even fire hydrants. Yeah, all kinds of stuff goes up there. And I'm protecting a man's right to be able to shove anything up his anus that he wants. And I think that's an important point on the global agenda of trade, that in a country where we must protect all people of sexual perversity. And even now I am campaigning not only for marriage to be recognized between a man and a woman and a woman and a woman, or a woman and a man and a man and a man, or a man and a sheep, or a man and a goat, but for the right of any man amongst consenting adults to keep women in cages dressed like little barnyard animals, like bunnies and kitten cats. Of course, if everybody consents to it in his basement. Or for any woman to put on leather underpants and tie a man up and drag him around by a leash and whip his ass to her heart's content. Just beat the bubbles out of him. Yes, that's a constitutionally protected right as well among consenting adults. And I find that an appropriate thing to come here, because since I have turned it into the United Sodomites of America, and I am now the POTUS of the President of the United Sodomites of America, I just think that once again, in my quest for everyone in the future to be, well, gay, black, and stoned, that's the most important thing for me to speak of as President of the United States in a foreign country. And so with that to be said, let's take out the spliffs. Let's put on a dress. Let's get on some Manolo Blahniks. Let's pick out a purse that matches that dress and party like it's 1999. I appreciate all of you here. I want to say thank you again for listening to my message of homosexual diversity about anything, anyone, anywhere, being able to put things in their butts. Because that's the most important thing on the international stage right now, is protecting our gay, homosexual, transvestite, lesbian, bondage, sadomasochistic, S&M population all across the world. Thank you again. From sea to sea, from planet to planet and star to shining star, from out of the night and into the light, from the pyramids of Giza to the pyramids on Mars, the dark side of the street to the dark side of the moon, from the ancient antediluvian past to the furthest reaches of the far-flung future, from science fiction to science fact, from conspiracy theory to conspiracy reality, from hometown shenanigans to international global intrigues, from the bicameral fissure at the center of your brain to the living heart of our galaxy, your frequency is ascending. Revolution-radio.com, revolutiontalkradio.com, revolutionradio.tv, and revolutionradio.rocks, along with freedomslips.com, are tickled pink, pleased as punch, and just busting their buttons. They're so proud to present the radio show that is the pinnacle of 16.4 billion years of evolution. Strange Universe Radio, with your host, man so nice they named him thrice. Man who occasionally thinks he's the President of the United States. What can I tell you? What? Where did this go? There it is. Yes, from the man whose blood smells like cologne, whose hands feel like rich Corinthian leather. His Twitter account gets his account verified by the most interesting people in the world. The man who can win an argument with just a knowing look. At birth, he cut his own umbilical cord. And the only person who will have come back from the Bermuda Triangle with a souvenir. It is I, the Sean David Morton. Welcome to our show. Oh, I'm sorry for that tirade at the beginning of the show, but two interesting things are going on today. Look, it's so easy to bash this Barack Obama guy. He's such a maroon. So he goes to Kenya, and all he does in Kenya, where, once again, with Kenya, they're one of the major oil-producing states. They have a massive radical population that's getting out of hand. They're facing revolt and revolution. They, too, are facing an immigration problem, which is really weird, because how do you tell anybody apart, in Africa? Obviously, they're all same race, so it's not like you can round them up. Here in America, we had the United States, I believe, playing Spain in a soccer match, and there were 90,000 people in the Rose Bowl to watch this. It was sold out. If you were really serious about immigration, all you would have to do is, while the match was going on, you throw a net over the Rose Bowl. And on the way out, you check everybody's papers. And anybody who doesn't have papers stays in the Rose Bowl. You just throw a net around it. You get ICE to show up. Everybody comes out has to show a driver's license or birth certificate or whatever else, something that says they actually have some legitimate aspect to be here. And if they don't, they stay. And then you put them in a truck and send them home. Easy peasy. There you go. 90,000 illegal immigrants off the welfare rolls right away. So here you have Obama, who goes to Kenya, where the most important thing he can think of is to espouse gay rights to Kenya. To Kenya, a very religious country, by the way. At the same time, you have a lot of radical Muslim stuff going on as well. He's not going to address any of that. Here's a guy who turns the White House rainbow-colored to celebrate, the men and women can marry now, but doesn't do anything as far as colors on the White House. Did anybody know that they had the ability to actually paint the White House in various colors of light? And I'm a big fan of the rainbow. I like the rainbow. Rainbow is primarily, the rainbow's Irish. You know why? Because at the end of the rainbow is a pot of gold with a leprechaun at the bottom. When you slid down the rainbow on your pony bright winged Pegasus-like unicorn, usually you slid right down into a pot of gold. Now you're sliding down into some gay fella's butt. So how do you, as a sexual preference, how do you take over an entire spectrum of light? Can't wear a rainbow t-shirt anymore. Can't have rainbow bright ponies. Whoa, say that. Rainbow bright ponies. Can't have those. But to have a president of the United States, wow, WTF with capital Fs. How far have we come that America has a representative that goes to a foreign country, basically waves his penis in their face and says, everybody's got to be gay. You got to protect your gay people. It's all about being gay. Okay, yeah, how about talking about the oil deal? How about importing more oil? How about stabilizing the country? How about talking about infrastructure? How about loans to the United States to increase from the United States to increase their refining capacity so we get more oil into the United States? No, we got to talk about gay people. Oh, we got to talk about, everybody should have the right to put something up their ass. Bye. Come on. I mean, seriously, B? And now, front page of the LA Times on Sunday. And I'll get out over this tirade and we'll talk about more interesting stuff. Front page of the LA Times on Sunday says, judge delivers blow to Obama's immigration policies. Okay, here's the blow. According to the Los Angeles Times, why I still get this dopey paper if there were not coupons in this paper. I would never touch the LA Times. It is funny for me to go through the LA Times knowing what I know and just laughing at the articles and laughing at their perspective and understanding how completely and utterly self-destructive the media has become. The mainstream liars have become. Everything they tell you is to destroy you. It's like if the Nazis and the Japanese won the war, if the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and just kept going and moved into California and took over the western half of the United States. Of course, now the Chinese are just buying it.
March in this oven. We have cupcakes.
And the Nazis perfected the atom bomb and used their V-2 rockets and blew a bunch of stuff up and took over the United States. And the Nazis and the Japanese, you knew if you were a subjugated people and you were watching the mainstream media and you were being forced to watch this propaganda 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you'd probably think, probably not good for me. They're probably telling me stuff to just keep me in line. But in this case, it's like, look, if you do the exact opposite of everything the media tells you to do, you'll be okay. Look at what the media champions. Look at what they champion. I can't even point out what the media champions without people saying, oh, you're a racist, you're sexist, you're whatever. If you watch what they champion every day, as who's better than you, as who's smarter than you, as who's cooler than you, you can't express an opinion. If you express an opinion, you'll lose a job. Look what happened to Hulk Hogan. Expressing opinion in private conversation with his daughter, loses his job. What? Didn't like his daughter dating black guys. Oh, no. Lose your job for that, Hulk. She has every right to date those black guys. Doesn't matter how that's going to turn out somehow. You as a parent having an opinion about what your daughter does. Nope, you're going to get fired from World Wrestling Federation. Sorry, Bob or Terry or whatever his name is, his real name. But it gets worse. Okay, so here we go. So he goes to Kenya, offends the president of Kenya, who says, this is a non-issue for us. Why are you bringing this up? This is not even on the table. You had 5,000 people that were going to appear naked in protest of Obama bringing this sodomite agenda to Africa when important things needed to be discussed. Again, what? Look, I don't care if the guy is gay as the $3 bill. I don't care if his beard of a wife is a man. You're the president of the United States and you're going to a foreign country. And let me point out also in the Olympics, in the Winter Olympics, we made a big deal about the Russians. We made a big deal about having Billie Jean King basically flip the flying bird high hard middle one in their face because we're gonna have lesbians carry the banner just because the Russians banned the education system to children to say we don't want homosexual practices taught to kids in our school. And that was enough. Didn't ban homosexuals, didn't discriminate against homosexuals. I'm sure Russia's not very friendly to them. I know India, where they love their women, and they have every right to love their women because Indian women are hot. They are hot. You ever seen an Indian woman dance? Holy cow. Go to a Hindu dance party somehow, because I've been to one. Man, it's crazy. They're sweet. They're cute. They dance like crazy. They're beautiful, and they loves their women. And they just passed a whole big thing making homosexuality illegal. And I don't know what they do to you. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the punishment fits the crime.
The Hindus wrote the book on sex.
They wrote the book on sex. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But it doesn't seem like a big punishment to me to be gay and then be thrown into a big box with a whole bunch of other gay men. That doesn't seem, on the one hand, if the state carries out capital punishment for crimes, they are carrying out retribution where an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But if the state comes along and puts you in prison with a bunch of other guys, they suddenly become, the state suddenly becomes a gay dungeon master, basically. Let's put them all together. So that's not the other thing that has me pissed off. So now, Barack Hussein Obama, Barry Soetoro, Harrison J. Bonnell, Barky Big Ears, Tony D. Tiger, whatever the hell his gangsta name is this week, the Fresh Prince of D.C., so there's a court case now, this court case where this female judge has now said that all the men and women that Obama has allowed to ooze across the border, not just ooze, I mean a tidal wave across the border in California, in Arizona, in Texas, to the point of where Texas is saying, screw you, you're not going to enforce the law. We want to handle our own border security, and we're going to work with Arizona. Well, California, forget about it, because we've got Governor Jerry Brown, where it's like not only come on into our state, but we will use taxpayer dollars. They actually passed a bill here called the DREAM Act to use taxpayer dollars to educate your kids coming across, if you're an illegal alien, to educate your kids coming in. And by the way, just in medical costs and emergency rooms and whatever else, I am telling you that illegal aliens cost anywhere between $60 to $80 billion a year. And that's not even including crime. That's just taking care of the ones that want to come here and kind of want to be here. But now we've let all these kids and their moms and whomever else now ooze across the border. Now they come across the border, and what did we do? Well, the Border Patrol rounded them up and said, what do we do with them now? So now they put them in these big warehouses, these big detention centers, in essence. Well, a judge has come along and said that the detention centers, the conditions are deplorable. And she's now struck down the detention center idea. Okay, first off, the detention centers where they get regular meals and food and sanitation are now, 10 times better than the stinking rotten country that they just came from. Probably Guatemala. And Guatemala's not that bad. Guatemala is actually, the parts I saw of Guatemala were pretty nice. But it's still a third world country. It's still way down there. It's still a problem finding anybody that has any indoor plumbing. But now she says, because the conditions there are, quote, deplorable, now you just got to let everybody go. Well, what are you going to do with them all? Now you're just going to set them free on the tundra to run wild like the buffalo? Oh, it's deplorable. Oh, it's horrible. The conditions we're keeping them. Well, they're better than where they came from. And of course, the ones that are in the detention center are the ones that aren't getting shipped to the middle of the country, that aren't getting shipped to Salt Lake City or Wyoming or Idaho or French Congolese, where the highest rape per capita in the world, with the women who had been raped and their rapists are now being brought here, and they're sending them to North Dakota. They don't speak English, by the way. Oh, and they're Muslim. Oh, and yeah, a bunch of them are criminals. But we're just going to gloss that part over. So front page of the Times says this is a setback for Obama, where the woman says that, the detention centers are bad, but just free them. In other words, just let them go. To do what? Didn't actually say in the ruling, well, put them back. Because what are you going to do? You can't take them to the border and just release them into Mexico, because they're not Mexicans. Most of them, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, whatever, they all came up when the word went out on the federal line, come on in, we're not going to send you back. Oh, and then let's take San Francisco, for example, where you can't own a gun, but you can ride the bus naked. Matter of fact, you can walk around naked anywhere, just tell them you went to Berkeley. Now I think you have to have a towel for your wet, diseased, hairy ass, so that somebody else doesn't sit in your ass juice when you actually come on the bus to ride the bus. Now you have to at least have a towel for your ass if you want to prance around San Francisco nude. And now San Francisco has become what they call a sanctuary city. Well, just as Donald Trump is shooting off his mouth about, that the aliens are criminals and rapists and whatever else, you now have an illegal alien who has been bounced out of the country 5 times, who is apparently clinically insane, who comes back every time and comes to San Francisco because it's a sanctuary city, finds a gun that just so happens to belong to a park ranger. What? So Ranger Rick, when he's not chasing Yogi and Boo Boo, loses his gun somewhere. And this guy picks it up and then accidentally shoots a woman in the stomach. And she dies. Yay. Because they're a sanctuary city. Because, oh, if you're an immigrant, oh, come here, come to San Francisco. And that's why San Francisco sucks now. That's why San Francisco used to be the jewel on the bay, and now it's the hobo jungle. Try walking down Market Street on the carpet of hobos there, or the wafting smell of what used to be Pinot Noir, but is now urine everywhere in San Francisco. And you tell me that these I don't even know what to call them anymore. I hate saying Democrats or Republicans or liberals or whatever else you want to call them. They're just a party that we could just call the stupid party. I mean, at least the Democrats tell you what they are. They've got a jackass as their symbol. So, I'm just nonplussed today that all this stuff about Obama prancing around the world, shoving a gay agenda on the rest of the planet. People ain't digging our scene here in America. Yeah, everybody else thinks that Caitlyn Jenner is disgusting as well. But, here you can't say that. He's 11 million hits on Courage, Caitlyn Jenner. If I put up a Twitter somewhere, how about Caitlyn Jenner disgusting? Can I put up a Twitter or something like that, or a hashtag, Jenner disgusting or something? Or is that just long gone? Have we now moved past that national tragedy on the ESPYs? Thank you very much.
Nope, because her reality show started this week.
Oh, my God. Really?
Yep.
And by the way, who produces all these programs? Ryan Seacrest. You want to know who the devil is? It's Ryan Seacrest. He's Satan incarnate. He has somehow, at some point, made some kind of deal with Dr. Faustus to get him in touch with Mephistophelies to sell his soul to the devil. And I still remember Simon Cowell, who is Ryan Seacrest's best buddy at some point. Because I think it was Simon Cowell when they started the whole American Idol thing here. It was Simon Cowell that actually brought it from England because it was a British show. And people forget that I think the first season of American Idol had the same British host that it had when it was over in England, and then they replaced him with Ryan Seacrest. So I remember listening. I'm tooling down the road and listen, and for some reason my button got stuck on Kiss FM, and Simon Cowell was on, and he was being interviewed by Ryan Seacrest. And I tell the story because it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard, where Ryan is going, so, Simon, well, do a criticism of me. Do a criticism of me. Ooh. And Simon says, no, Ryan, you don't want me to criticize you. No, please, please, please. Oh, please. Sounding like SpongeBob. Talk to Me Tuesday, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Actually, they said, why did Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young break up? And I think they asked Stephen Stills, and they said, I don't know. I think Neil Young just got up to go to the bathroom one day and just never came back, which is so true. He was cousins with somebody I went to high school with, and I actually went to a barbecue where he was there, and nobody wanted to pick him for volleyball because he was so wiped out. It's like I remember serving the ball up in the air, and everybody went, "Hey Neil, look out!" He went, "What?" Straight up hit him right in the face. It was very funny.
Is that how the series Daria's intro always went? Jim and ball.
Thank you, Captain Non Sequitur. I have no idea. Never seen the series. Don't know. But I'm sure you're right, Steve.
Sean, if you want to be relatable to the Generation Xers, you gotta talk about things that are associated with Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Beavis and Butthead was the 90s. The 90s, man. That's way back. Mapping human poo in San Francisco, since I'm picking on San Francisco. Tracking stinky snails in Florida and coming up with a way to tell men that if they could just learn to close their legs, please, the New York subway would suck so much less for everyone. Be forewarned. It's a fact of life in most cities. They've actually had to come up with a map called Human Wasteland on San Francisco. And in most cities, some people use public spaces as public toilets. And I thought London was bad. France is beautiful. France is pristine. It's gorgeous. The architecture is amazing. People actually care about the city. London, England, not so much. It's just it's like the tube there is, once again, it's fetid. Let's put it that way. It's fetid. But San Francisco is facing some kind of epidemic with turds rolling into streets and sidewalks with alarming frequency. If you just look at St. George Alley, which is wedged between North Beach and the financial district, where city workers currently scoop up 30 piles of human crap per week, according to a Department of Public Works employee. But which places are the crappiest? Now, since people report their shitey experience to 311, web developer Jenny Wong created a quite beautiful map using some public data named Human Wasteland, and the winning and losing neighborhoods are the Excelsior, SOMA, Soma, and the Outer Sunset District, or Human Wasteland, which was in the SF Weekly. Now, if you want to talk about Florida, Florida's most unwelcome new resident are giant African land snails. Did it take them like 1,000 years to get here? They are relatively slow, but they're currently wreaking havoc on Miami-Dade County. The slimy beasts, we can reach up to 8 inches in size. They likely hitched a ride over in an exotic plant shipment, and they're pretty much the worst because they eat everything from landscaping to agriculture to houses. Houses. By the way, they eat stucco on your house to build up calcium for their shells. Plus, that's because all these houses in Florida, they're basically all built out of paper mache. Stucco is the industrial version of paper mache. Plus, they leave behind sticky trails of mucus that smell like rotten eggs. And now the bad news. According to a report on NPR, they are also, just like our president, hermaphrodites, which means that they can now self-reproduce. All right, everybody say it with me. Ew! They should just call them Bruce Jenner snails. But here's the good news. In some African countries, the snails are also seen as delicacies. So maybe we will see giant escargot on Miami menus soon. And the minute you make it so you can make money off these things, I think they'll disappear pretty quick. And for years, blogs have faithfully documented the scourge in New York of what they call man spreading, where men spread their legs and belongings far and wide on the New York subway, taking up far more space than any human should ever require. The MTA, this is true, the MTA is now planning a campaign for the new year that will publicly shame these men into closing their legs. Yes, there are some women who take up too much room, but the offenders are mostly men. I don't think women really splay themselves. Usually they put their purse on their lap. Well, anyway, acting more respectably on trains. The campaign will also target people who don't take off their backpacks, also mostly men. And perhaps a simple social media campaign encouraging people to photograph and hashtag offenders would possibly suffice. And the news that Boston, actually, and this is kind of a big deal from my own personal prophetic point of view. Now, we've got a lot of people saying that there's going to be a big earthquake happening here fairly soon. We also have an Olympic event here happening in Los Angeles called the Special Olympics. And again, they pretend it's the Olympics, and it's basically so the kids can get out there and feel all good about themselves. Once again, it's sort of like, there's certain philosophies where we applaud all kinds of stuff. Again, it's what I call the singing dog phenomenon. It's not how well your dog sings. It's the fact that your dog can. So once again, Special Olympics, it's not about how well they do. It's the fact that they just get out there and do it. But the Special Olympics is bringing in almost $500 million, something like $480 million in economic juice into Los Angeles. And look, Los Angeles is the perfect place for the Olympics. The weather is always great. We have so many sports venues here to do it. The Olympics in 1984 was fantastic. It was exemplary. It made money, and it was a beacon for the rest of the world. And now that Boston no longer wants to host the 2024 Summer Olympics, that isn't really a shock. Could you see putting it in Boston? And by the way, also, Tom Brady lost his appeal today for the Inflategate thing. Lost his appeal. Now we're talking about Tom Brady supposedly being complicit in taking a few centimeters of air out of a football, and he got a 4-game suspension. Ray Rice beat the bubbles out of his wife in an elevator on video camera, and he got a 2-game suspension for beating the bubbles out of his wife. And Tom Brady gets 4 games. Just saying, for all you Boston guys. And I like Boston. I like the people in Boston. But Boston, you are the worst fans on earth. I'm just telling you, you are the worst. When you have something that wins like the Patriots, oh, jeez. You're just, the Boston people are just, you're just terrible fans. You're just not good fans. You're not good sports about anything. Other than that, I love the way you talk. I love your beans. I love your chowder. I love the whole, sort of obnoxious Irishness of Boston. But the Summer Olympics of 2024, and Boston not wanting it isn't really a shock. Few cities do these days. As a matter of fact, the Olympics of 2004 bankrupted Greece, and look where they are a little over 10 years later. But the Olympics don't have to be bad for the host city, and if they're done right, they can actually benefit. But nowhere is that clearer than Los Angeles, which is the new front runner for the 2024 Olympics. Now, the Olympics would be fantastic for Los Angeles, and even more importantly, LA will be good for the Olympics, because these days, hosting the Olympic Games is rarely seen as a boon for any of the cities as it once was considered. If you just look at the Olympic news over the last few months, Japan has canceled its stadium. Rio is completely not ready for the Olympics that are coming next year. Sochi is a ghost town, the place where they had the Winter Olympics. Greece, again, you've all heard about what's happened in Greece. But Los Angeles achieved something really dynamic and special when it hosted the Summer Olympics in 1984. I was there. I was there at the opening ceremonies. I was practically sitting on the left hand of Rayford Johnson when he lit the torch. I was there at the closing ceremonies. I was at the very back wall of the Coliseum. Watched the big flying saucer or the helicopter above it come in, and Lionel Richie do the halftime show. But they ended up being the most successful Olympic Games in history. Another thing was that the Russians didn't come. The Russians completely bowed out. They're like, we will take revenge on you for not coming to our Olympics in 1980. And nobody missed them. But to give the city another chance to replicate that success would be an extremely smart thing for the IOC to do, because LA would give the Olympics a clear victory on the global stage and help set a roadmap for how cities might efficiently, sustainably, and responsibly host the games in the future. And Los Angeles would help the Olympics win back the world's goodwill. And here's how it can happen. The LA Games were the most fiscally responsible ever, because the city has hosted the Olympics twice, once in 1932 and once in 84. And both times, LA did something remarkable. It made money. Lots of money. And in fact, due to smart investing, LA is still making money from the Olympic Games. Where other cities faced ballooning costs and years and decades even of paying off debt, LA achieved the impossible with a smart combination of corporate sponsorship, broadcast rights, and private funds. And no Angelenos were taxed. Not one for the Games. And no government money was used. The strategies that helped LA be successful the first two times around will be employed again to make sure that the city stays flush with cash. And by the way, overbuilding giant venues has become a disheartening trend for major sporting events. Just look at the glut of stadiums built especially for the World Cup games in Brazil and Qatar. What are they going to do with them? Sometimes at great human cost, because in the years after the games, the stadiums are often abandoned. They fall into disrepair. In LA, the big events, including the opening and closing ceremonies, happened at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, home of the USC Trojans, in Exposition Park, which was built in 1932 for the first Olympics and reused for the 84 games. And now it belongs to USC. Los Angeles proposals claims that the only purpose-built development will be some athlete housing, which will be reused as affordable housing and office space. And by the way, they have an Olympic Village right there because they've got USC. All they do is they kick the students out for the summer. We have tons of dorms and apartments. This is LA's big advantage. Barry Sanders, chair of the Southern California Committee for the Olympic Games, said the key element for any proposal for LA is flexibility. We have no need to build any new permanent venues. We might choose to, but we have no need to. And we only have enough venues. We have more than enough venues. And a transportation boom will prevent logistical nightmares. One of the most legendary tales of the 84 Olympics was that people were so afraid of getting trapped in one of LA's most famous traffic jams that everybody stayed home or left town because it was in the summer, and athletes and spectators zipped around town on empty roads, and officials could scare Angelenos off the roads again. Remember Carmageddon? But they likely won't have to, because LA is in the midst of a public transit renaissance, building out several critical rail lines faster than any other American city. An accelerated timeline would mean many of those major lines will be completed right around the time of the Olympics, including a rail connection and a people mover to officially deliver riders to and from LAX, finally. And a plan says it will deliver 80% of spectators by transit, and I think that's totally doable. So anyway, the city's getting a test run right now. The Olympics worked great in '84, but the city has changed, and so have the way that large events are run. Well, you might not know this, but Los Angeles is hosting the Special Olympic World Games right now, and the opening ceremonies happen over the weekend at the LA Coliseum. And the same venue that would be used again in 2024, the Special Olympics is the largest sporting event happening anywhere on the planet this year. 6,500 athletes, 2,000 coaches, 165 countries, 30,000 volunteers, 500,000 spectators, and all the venues are being tested right now. So far, LA is holding up pretty well. We had a dude in a jetpack 31 years ago. And if we had this kind of technology 3 decades ago, just imagine what we could do in 2024. I mean, really, what else is there to say? So anyway, so that's, and the reason that prophetically, the reason I also go through all that is, once again, I have this prophecy that of the destruction of Los Angeles happening at some point during some kind of massive international sporting event. And I see, once again, this I've said it before, I'll say it again, this angel tower just to the west of downtown Los Angeles, a big angel with a flaming sword on it, or some kind of light up sword. And then some kind of massive Olympic event here. Now, I thought it was going to be the 2016 Olympics. I still think that Brazil is not going to be ready for them, although they'll just kind of limp along. But, who knows? They might move the 2016 Olympics and say, well, Los Angeles, it's your turn. So there it is. Okay, they're still making a fuss. AOL reports alien-human hybrid believed to be secret government operative found dead in SUV in Los Angeles. The fact that KTLA News and the mainstream media is making such a big hullabaloo over this whole thing. I mean, it's a nice compilation of the related news stories for this item. It's on Stillness in the Storm, the website, an agent of conscious evolution, with a big thing about the Mount Shasta Seminar Conference. So AOL shared a story on the 23rd that put together a nice compilation of the related news about this. The fact is, the story is being reported on mainstream media, in particular AOL, suggests that some type of effort is being made to condition the sleeping masses. And even if this is a contrived piece of disinformation, the effect on consciousness is undeniable. The average Joe will be asked to now actually contemplate. And look at what's being presented on Channel 5. Secret government projects, yes.
Oh, Sean, I was just going to say as well, and it's evident in the audio clip, which I can cue for you, that the policemen are also making statements. They're not saying they necessarily believe the alien story, but they are saying that the case in and of itself is weird. So the cops are not even trying to deny any kind of weirdness. They're part of the questioning process.
Put the clip together. The clip together.
I will.
Even if, once again, the average Joe is going to be asked to contemplate secret government projects, alien agendas, the hybridization of human beings, the secret space program. And also, please remember, it's not just hybridization. We're not talking about a person who is actually maybe bred in a test tube and raised on a ship somewhere. You can actually now take DNA packages, if you will, and we're learning a lot of this from the secret space program. And if you want to know exactly how they're doing it, why they're doing it, what the process is, what the ramifications are, then the motion picture you need to see is The Bourne Legacy with Jeremy Renner. It's all there. It's right there. It's mind control. It's triggering scientists to go kill everybody else on a project, claiming they go insane. And it's actually taking the DNA of whatever it is you want to alter and packaging it inside a virus and then injecting it into someone. But if we assume that the narrative put forth by, oh, thank you. Yay, my darling wife just came home and brought me a green tea frappuccino from Starbucks.
That sounds delicious. Whenever
it is.
Whenever you're ready for me, Sean, we're queued up.
All right, this could be part of a disclosure spin campaign that is now being offered up by the cabal. Or this could be part of, a cabal or white dragon society or alliance or effort to prepare humanity for the coming data dump. Or this could be all an elaborate psychological operation. But because as outsiders we have such a small amount of data to work with, I'd advise not jumping to any hard and fast conclusions. One thing is undeniable, however. The public is being conditioned for something. And we who are more aware of the grand truths in the universe, like all you, my happy strangers, it's all unfolding behind the scenes, and you can use this story as a topic of discussion with our sleeping brothers and sisters. And again, the story appears in all these alternate news publications. Lash's fiance of 17 years, that must be a record. He regularly ordered filet mignon raw. What the heck happened to this guy when he went to UCLA? Of course, because he's such a freak. He suddenly changed and dropped out, probably because mind control experiments. And by the way, if you want to know anything about mind control, UCLA is where they started all this stuff with a guy by the name of Dr. Jolly West. Body found of man connected to missing woman, believed to be human alien hybrid. These are the headlines. And once again, just a story. A man with a home filled with guns, something like 1,200 guns, and whose decomposed body was found in an SUV in Pacific Palisades here, was believed to be a human alien hybrid. This is KTLA News on Channel 5. And the fellow that they got to report it is the whitest white man you've ever seen. Blonde hair. I mean, he's an Aryan dream, this guy. Blue eyes, blonde hair, big broad shoulders, looks like a movie idol, and it's all
a front. The reporter is actually the alien hybrid.
It's Rick something, I know. Working with the U.S. government by his fiancée, according to the woman's mother. Dawn Vadbunker was last seen by her family on the same day Jeffrey Lash allegedly died. Lash has not officially been identified, but his former attorney confirmed his name to KTLA. Vadbunker's mother believes her daughter has been caught in the middle of a mysterious death investigation and may be suffering from a mental breakdown. According to Laura Vadbunker, her daughter believes Lash was an alien sent to Earth to protect us. I can't believe this. It's worse than a Twilight Zone movie, and we've lived through it, said Laura Vadbunker. Lash's body, now, the trick is going to be who gets the movie rights to this, by the way. Lash's body was discovered by police on July 17th in an SUV at the 1700 block of Palisades Drive. Police were alerted to the body by an attorney representing the victim's fiancée, Catherine DeBron, who also happens to be Vadbunker's employer. First off, Pac Palisades is really heavily patrolled. I mean, there's a whole bunch of really rich white people up there. So the fact that you can park a car on a street for 2 weeks and not have something happen? Lash died, defense attorney Harlan Braun said. DeBron and Vadbunker believed Lash was a secret government agent, but not entirely human. He was part alien and part human. He was out to save the world, said Laura Vadbunker. Well, so am I. Does that make me? DeBron didn't notify authorities when Lash died because she thought the secret agencies he worked for would come and collect his body. Not so fast. Which might actually blow the whole secret cabal there. She left him in her SUV near the home, went to Oregon with Vadbunker, whose family reported her missing 2 days later. Awesome Celebrity Infinity cruise ship. We will sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Yucatan and Western Caribbean, where we sail and snorkel in Cozumel, experience an authentic Mayan ceremony in Altan Ha in Belize, swim with dolphins in Roatan, and visit a Mayan sacred site, and the amazing seven-color lake in Costa Maya. The ship is filling up quickly. It is almost sold out. Do not delay. Register now at www.newlifecruise.com. Please mention The Sean or Strange Universe Radio when you sign up for a special gift. You'll get a free book and some other things. So I look forward to seeing you on the ship. We have 2 cruises coming up, actually. The other cruise is going to be the Conspiracy Cruise, and that's going to be happening the last week of January of 2016, and that's going to be from Los Angeles. So we have 2 cruises. We got one coming up October 29th to November 5th with a superb itinerary that is stunning and amazing and spectacular and wondrous and glamorous and grand and all the adjectives I can think of. And that leaves out of Fort Lauderdale. But if you're listening to Strange Universe on the West Coast, then we've got the Conspiracy Cruise with the top conspiracy researchers and speakers on the planet, really. And you get to spend 7 days with them all on a boat. And so there it is. So that one's going from Long Beach all the way down the Mexican Riviera, and that one's going to be great too. So we've got 2 cruises. So just check out Strange Universe Radio, and it's be all good. Also, special kisses go out to Oh, everybody's listening out there. Hi, Feather. Feather Wild is out there. And of course, my girlfriend, we share the love that dare not speak its name. That's Solaris Blue Raven. Want to say hi to her. And everybody else who's listening. Helena Phoenix, who's usually listening. And, of course, Sue and Sherry up in Oregon, and Hillary and Heather Holman and the whole gang. Okay, we've got this weird clip about this guy. Again, somebody wants to give me some money, man. We buy the rights to this guy's life. We get the movie rights to his case. Holy cow. So run it. Here's a clip.
Scared to death of the worst case scenarios.
The parents of 39-year-old Dawn Vadbunker haven't seen or heard from her since July 3rd when she left headed for work in Santa Monica.
Dawn was going down the coast to see her client. She's a property manager.
The beloved daughter and mother of two was expected to return on July 4th. Her mother, Laura Vadbunker, received a text, though, saying Dawn was staying 2 days longer.
I felt that was odd because she was supposed to help us with the party at the clubhouse.
After a couple days and not hearing from Dawn,
not to call me back is so highly suspicious that I have no words for it.
Her parents became worried.
Why isn't she calling? She's not answering her phone. She's not posting.
And on July 10th, reached out to Oxnard police and reported their daughter missing.
She was last seen in the Santa Monica area.
Oxnard police have several new leads, including a possible sighting call from a man who says he saw Dawn with her female friend who also hasn't been heard from.
She's potentially with that female. We've located the neighbors of that female, and they have not seen that female either.
Other tips suggest that Dawn was into alternative therapy.
Known to be involved in some hand healing therapy.
Yeah, this is such a bizarre story. That missing woman from Oxnard knows the dead man, works for the dead man's fiancée, and apparently still thinks that he was sent to Earth to protect us all. And her family tonight, as you can imagine, is worried.
I cannot believe this. It's worse than a Twilight Zone movie, and we've lived through hell.
The mother of a missing Oxnard woman, Dawn Vadbunker, believes that her daughter is in the middle of a mysterious death investigation tonight and may be having a mental breakdown. This past week, police found a man's decomposing body in an SUV parked in the Palisades, and at a townhouse down the street, they found hundreds of guns and tons of ammunition. Well, it turns out that the dead man's fiancée, Catherine Nebron, is Dawn Vadbunker's boss, and the two women were with the man when he died. But they never reported the death because they believed he was a secret agent, but with a twist.
He was part alien and part human, and he was out to save the world, and he was higher than the CIA, and that every time we were there, that we were being watched.
And the women apparently believed that alien or CIA operatives would collect the man's body while they went to Oregon.
It was craziness that was totally nuts.
Harlan Braun is the fiancé's attorney and is shocked by what was discovered at the Palisades home.
We found a lot of cash. We found guns. We found, stuff that could be used for snipers. There are cars that were modified for, desert travel. He could have been working for anyone. It's hard to imagine, however, that it's a total figment of imagination because there was so much money involved. There's almost $5 million worth of guns that were taken by the police. The police also uncovered 6.5 tons of ammunition at the one condo in the Palisades.
Laura Vadbunker isn't quite sure why her daughter believes the alien secret agent story, but she wants her to come home now and get some help. That daughter, Dawn Vadbunker, who is 39, by the way, has yet to contact her parents or her two teenage daughters, and may still actually be up in Oregon. Meanwhile, the dead man, identified tonight as Jeff Lash, has other storage units that are still unopened. No telling what they may find in there.
That's
Jimmy
it.
Hoffa. The real alien autopsy. So, anyway. There it is. By the way, none of this stuff is illegal. He bought all this. He's got licenses. He went to gun shows. He has price tags on a lot of this stuff. He had, and I've heard different reports of, an amphibious car and a car designed to go underwater, like a submarine car. I don't think there is a submarine car. I think there's an amphibious car, but
James Bond's got one.
James Bond has the submarine Lotus, from The Spy Who Loved Me, but I doubt he has that particular car. So This is an ongoing story. You have not heard the end of this, and take it from somebody who has met personally human alien hybrids. They're very strange. And again, I sat at a Denny's with a guy who sat there and told me that he was an alien and he was 126 years old and that he had Howard Hughes' original will and he had a googillion dollars but he wouldn't pick up the check at Denny's. So yeah, you got all this money and we're meeting at Denny's. Wow. And you live in Victorville for some reason.
Well, they only accept human money, and I only have half the human money.
Yeah, see, that's the really challenge for you humans. Okay, last week, Benjamin Fulford, we didn't get to him yesterday for some reason, because I had a rocking weekend. Once again, saw Steve Miller on Friday, got to hang out with Winston Shrout, we drove out to Victorville, hung out with Winston Shrout Saturday night into Sunday, went to Will Chapel. He had a birthday party for his little girls. They had, everybody over, and he had it was a bouncy house water slide. How cool is that? Part of it's bouncy house, part of it is water slide. And, so anyway, he's got little girls that don't talk a lot. It's funny because he's got a little boy who's 2, and all he can say is daddy. And when you try to get him to go outside, he puts his whole fist into his mouth and goes, "Oh, God." So, Braden, and happy birthday, Reese. And Chloe wants a Princess Sophie tea party or something. So anyway, it was fun to go see the goddaughters, and I don't know. They don't talk, and they just come up and give me a hug and go, "Uncle Sean." That's about it. That's all I get out of them. So,
Sean, I just got an interesting little thought here that comes from a station friend, Mr. Rowe.
Okay.
That VOD is Latin for to go or to walk.
What is Latin for what?
That VOD, VAD. So
yes.
Sort of thinking that it was code that, Vad, Dawn Vad Bunker.
Vad Bunker, yeah.
On, casually go to bunker.
Huh. Interesting.
It's a message.
And she's still missing, apparently, so.
It's like, don't panic, go to your bunker.
Interesting. Okay.
This is West Coast, and everybody's talking about, oh my God, with the West Coast.
Yeah, that something might be weird kind of happening.
Right.
All I can say is that you let me see, you're someone's either fiance and or girlfriend for 17 years, you die, and they leave you in a car. They park a car. Apparently they were with him when he died. So they're the ones that put him in the car and just parked him on the street in Pac Palisades. And how do you not get a car collected in Pac Palisades? Again, we're not talking about, this isn't Victorville. This is the middle of the desert. We're not talking about, you go up into parts of Laurel Canyon, or up on Mulholland Drive. Yeah, you could drive a car off a cliff up there and you won't find it for years. But not Pacific Palisades. Pacific Palisades is well patrolled and super bougie, and there's really no parking anywhere up there. How do you just leave a car with a dead guy in it for 2 weeks? And apparently if you die, she just left her love of her life, boyfriend, fiance, whatever, just left him dead in the car saying, "Oh, the aliens are going to come get him," or the government. That's another part of the story that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, this whole thing is just really strange. All right, Ben Fulford. Here's what he has to say. This is from July 27th, 2015, the Benjamin Fulford Report. Fulford says that Russian Pentagon alliance is putting final end to the rule of the Khazarian mafia. Last week, a Russian White Dragon Society representative came to Japan to cement an alliance with other factions of the White Dragon Society around the world. As part of this, the WDS authorized the release of a photograph. Now, this photograph is Ben Fulford, very handsome man, and he's standing next to a very old Japanese man who is wearing a light blue Nassau Bahamas shirt with a big anchor on it, and he has purple hair. I'm not kidding. He's got silver hair that he appears to have dyed purple. So, and he's got a big grin on his face. And this is this purple-haired guy with the NASA Bahamas shirt. And, okay. So there it is. The person pictured with this writer in his capacity as White Dragon Society spokesperson, Masaki Hatsumi. Now, Hatsumi runs the Bujinkan Martial Arts Training School, which has trained over 250,000 special operation troops and has a network of 50 training centers worldwide, which means if you make fun of his purple hair, he's going to kick your ass. His name is a household word among people involved in actual fighting and real martial arts worldwide. He trains FBI, British, U.S., Russian, Iranian, and other special forces. Chinese sources say he's the only Japanese citizen who has free access to the top levels of the Chinese government. At the meeting, Hatsumi expressed support for White Dragon Society goals. The alliance of the world's top fighting forces has spelled doom for the Khazarian mafia and their rapidly shrinking coterie of slave politicians. In particular, the Pentagon has begun coordinating with the Russians against the Khazarian mafia and multiple politicians who have been bribed by the Khazarian mafia. Well, that would be 47 Republicans in Congress who are still all voting to bomb Iran, as an example. Last week, again, multiple developments around the world made it very clear the worldwide Khazarian mafia control grid continues to be dismantled. For example, the Pentagon issued a photograph of Defense Secretary Ashton Carter with top Khazarian mobster and war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu, showing a clearly distraught and angry Netanyahu. Now, as we wrote last week, he was read the Riot Act. He was told Israel's, quote, Iron Dome, unquote, anti-missile defenses had been rendered useless, and Israel was now defenseless. Well, Netanyahu was forced to hand over 16 Cobra helicopters to Jordan and pay big money to buy accident-prone Ospreys from the Americans. After Carter left, Israel's military and intelligence establishment made public moves to distance themselves from the criminal Netanyahu. By the way, that's what Ashton Carter used to do. Ashton Carter is an arms salesman. And so as Secretary of Defense, he's basically just now cut out the middleman, and he just goes directly and says, well, here's the deal. You're going to buy this piece of junk now. So here's a story that leads to something else. Cracks widen as Israel security insiders break with politicians on Iran deal. The Carter visit was followed by a heavy-duty assault against Israel's proxy ISIS forces in the Middle East. The Saudis arrested 431 Khazarian ISIS agents, while the Turks arrested 251, and this was followed by U.S. bombers flying out of Turkey to attack ISIS forces in Syria while avoiding attacks on Syrian government troops. In the Ukraine, meanwhile, the Russians have accumulated over 2,500 pages of war crimes evidence, against the Khazarian Nazi regime there. The Pentagon is helping dismantle the Nazi network in the Ukraine in exchange for Russian help in the Middle East with Iran. That is why there were reports of military attacks against the Nazi army in the Ukraine last week. Now, needless to say, State Department Nazi Victoria Nuland, actually it's Victoria Nuland Kagan, and her Khazarian bosses are in deep trouble and will be headed for jail as a result of their criminal actions in the Ukraine. Again, this is one of these things that I would not hold my breath. There are also new moves against the Khazarian mafia in the United States, the ongoing efforts to force Hillary Clinton, or the Hildebeest, to now face criminal charges of using a private computer for secret government work are just a cover for more serious charges like, mass murder. The outing of John McCain as a traitor and not a war hero is another part of this campaign against Khazarian mafia henchmen in Washington, D.C. By the way, I completely agree with what Ben Fulford has said right there. John McCain should have been hung along with Jane Fonda for giving aid and comfort to the enemy. And I'll call John McCain a hero the day the government doesn't want to declassify the 40 propaganda videos that he made, 40 propaganda films that he made for his North Vietnamese masters. Fulford says the recent congressional move to take citizenship away from Americans who support terrorism was passed at Pentagon request and is aimed mainly at, ready for this, Israeli U.S. double citizens engaged in troublemaking, a Pentagon source says. Yes, if you are somehow Jewish, this is absolutely true. If you simply say, well, I'm a Jew, you can somehow, without being born there, without having relatives, whatever else, you can actually get a dual U.S. Israeli citizenship. And by the way, if you commit a murder in the United States and then just fly to Israel, you cannot be extradited from Israel for any reason, including murder, I might add. And they claim that Israel is a Ecclesiastical sovereignty. That's what it is. An ecclesiastical sovereignty. Now, this would be like, okay, if I'm Italian, or if I'm Catholic, as an example, I want to be a dual citizen of, I don't know, Vatican City and the United States, or Italy and the United States, or wherever my religion happens to be based. So, of course, our Jewish brethren have no access to attorneys or the legal system whatsoever. So, anyway, it's disgusting to me that we have so many members of not only Congress and the Senate, but in the executive branch that just so happen to be dual U.S. Israeli citizens. Of course, that was mostly under Bush. I'm sure they're all, U.S. Iranian citizens now, like Valerie Jarrett, as an example. All right, back to Fulford. Also, increasing pressure is being put on House slave acting President Barack Obama to not only release hidden information about 9/11 and 3/11, that's the Fukushima earthquake, but also to release information about Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. And release of information about the shooting down of Flight 17 will implicate Israel, Jeb Bush, and Obama himself. Multiple agency sources concur. Well, since it was shot down by a couple of Canadian Super Hornets after multiple passes, what about the Canadians? What about their prime minister, who's nuts now? The revelations about the eugenics and population control, Bush-Rockefeller Front, Planned Parenthood, selling organs of aborted fetuses, was another aspect of the attack against the Khazarian satanic network. Oh yeah, Planned Parenthood is using pieces of chopped up baby. Because you know how hard it is to get real, fresh, homegrown, grain-fed baby? I don't know what I would do if there wasn't a whole section at Whole Foods now. But there will be more revelations about missing children and other evil acts in the U.S. coming out as multiple investigations close in on all sides against the Khazarians, according to Vatican P2 sources. When the P2 inside the Vatican became our buddies and was releasing information about bad guys is news to me, but apparently it's not to Ben Fulford. Moves to dismantle Khazarian mafia control of the major media companies is also underway. The Rothschilds sold off their stake of the Financial Times newspaper to the Japanese Nikkei Group as a way of cashing out before having their media control confiscated by antitrust action. Now, according to MI5 sources, the Nikkei Group is employee-owned and promised that the Financial Times will now have editorial independence. Having worked for the Nikkei in the past, I can say that they are editorially timid and not very internationally minded, but they will probably keep their word about the Financial Times editorial independence. Another move against Khazarian media control was the blocking of efforts by the Comcast Corporation, or she's rich, or I don't know. And it comes after Polythene Pam, which is a lot of weird stuff in the Beatles. Anyway, finishing up Ben Fulford. Some of the British press is already waking up to the new reality and have begun to release hitherto taboo information. For example, Lord Sewell, not to be confused with Zool, was forced to resign from the House of Lords after photographs of him snorting cocaine off a prostitute's ass appeared in the press. Lord Sewell is a key ally of former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, who I'm sure has done his share of prostitute cocaine ass sniffing. His resignation will help pave the ground for more resignations and arrests, culminating in pedophile and murder charges being made against former Prime Minister Tony Blair, according to MI5 agents. Tony Blair, of course, is one of the top Bush Nazi faction agents in the UK, so his arrest would lead to other higher-ranked criminals. The move against Sewell was followed by erroneous reports on U.S. internet news sites about the death of Queen Elizabeth. Photographs of the Queen making a Nazi salute as a young child were also released in the corporate press. The Queen is fine and has been photographed in public recently and is not about to be intimidated, according to MI5. Nonetheless, the Queen would be well advised to release all information about her family's links with the Nazis and Hitler before it is released by other, not necessarily friendly sources. I'm sorry, they're Habsburgs. They come from Germany. There is a German Iron Cross on the gate of Buckingham Palace. I know, I've seen there. I've been to it. And by the way, everybody in the 20s and 30s saluted their flags using that Nazi salute in 1932 Olympics in Southern California at the Coliseum. Has the entire U.S. team actually pledging allegiance to the flag using the Nazi hand salute. which was traditional. Then when the Germans started using it, it became kind of unpopular. Then we changed it, and what it used to be actually was the Hopi Indian. It came from the American Indians, where they put their hand on their heart, and then they would say, "From my heart to you, may the path be smooth." And you put the hand on the heart, and then you put the hand up in the air with the palm out, which was an act of peace and blessing. But then Hitler adopted it, like so many other things, and then it didn't become cool anymore. The various political and military moves against the Khazarians coincide with intensified economic and financial warfare. Citibank and JP Morgan have been pushing down worldwide commodity prices with heavy selling in the futures markets, and the result has been a huge slump in commodities prices, notably oil, silver, copper, and gold. And this slump has continued even though physical demand remains strong. The fact that there was illegal manipulation of the gold futures market aimed at pushing the price of gold down shows how desperate the Kabbalists are to push its price down. CFTC here, today's illegal spoofing of gold futures, and also U.S. Mint sells most physical gold 2 years, same day gold price hits a 5-year low. By the way, oddly enough, on the one hand, you have silver, where we know that there's only about $30 billion worth of silver on Earth. 30% of it is owned by Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. And yet these silver futures, the silver market with JP Morgan is about $5 trillion. So $30 billion and real silver, and minus that from the $5 trillion where it's just all made up. And also the three biggest myths on Earth is that oil, diamonds, and gold are somehow rare. When you talk about manipulating gold prices, yeah. If you actually accounted for all the gold on Earth, gold would probably be, I don't know, $1 an ounce maybe if that. When the Spanish came and met the Inca, met the Maya, met the Aztecs, they were like, well, we don't know what to do with this stuff. Yeah, it's bright and shiny. We make stuff out of it, but it's useless to us. You can't eat it. It's not valuable like, cocoa leaves. So anyway, this appears to be aimed at, so I'm just saying that they're manipulating the markets. If I just suddenly had a big bar of gold, a big bar of gold, if I went over to this crazy guy's house that I met at the Denny's and went over to his place and suddenly just had, he uses a bar of platinum for a doorstop, and I just walked around with a bar of platinum and I took that in somewhere, or a big bar of gold, I would have to be able to explain to people where I got it. I'd have to have a receipt for it. I'd have to have this and that. I couldn't just say, I just found it over there, because I'd take it away or something. But anyway, all of these manipulation of the markets, according to Fulford, going back to him again, he appears to be aimed against China, because the Chinese have been accumulating as many physical assets as they can as part of their move to take control of the financial system away from the Khazarian mob. I'm not sure if that's just a good thing. Who is it that we want running the world? Do we want the yellow menace of the communist red Chinese? Or the Khazarian European Mongolian mix of the I don't know. Who do you want as your master? You want the angry Jewish guy who never seems to get it right at the checkout counter at the grocery store? What are you mad at? What are you talking about? Guys like my Jewish stepfather who soundproofed all the windows in the house because he was so cheap he didn't want us to hear the ice cream man. That sort of stuff. Anyway, the Chinese have now responded to this commodities move by dumping $520 billion in U.S. Treasuries in the past 5 quarters, according to JP Morgan. But the White Dragon Society believes that neither the Chinese Communist government nor the Khazarian Mafia should be in charge of the world's financial system. Instead, all the criminal parts of the private banking system need to be shut down and nationalized. And I'm not sure by putting government in control of it, that would make it any better. But Fulford says there also needs to be a return to the historical norm of government-controlled currency. I agree. Not Khazarian or Chinese gangster control. Agree again. Military types like to have a clear target when they take action. The answer is they need to take over the Federal Reserve Board, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan. And this would only require about 1,000 Special Forces troops at most to accomplish. True. Walk into a bank with a gun, you're pretty much done. As I said, a man with a gun can rob a bank. A man with a bank can rob the world. Write that down. Taking over these institutions can be done in a way that does not disrupt the real economy. Furthermore, confiscating assets illegally taken from the people by Khazarian gangsters will lead to an unprecedented boom. In Japan alone, the amount of money stolen by Khazarian gangsters over the past decade would be worth $100,000 for every man, woman, and child in the country. In the U.S., the sum stolen by gangsters pretending to be central bankers would be even greater. In criminal law, it is a given that stolen assets need to be returned to their rightful owners. These owners are the average tax-paying citizens of the planet. And police and military agencies around the world have a duty to enforce the law and arrest criminals. Top central bankers are proven criminals, so what exactly are we waiting for? So there you go. That's what Ben Fulford has to say, posing with his pal, apparently the most badass martial artist on earth, in his NASA Bahamas shirt with his purple hair. I don't think you should run pictures of these people anymore, Ben. It's sort of I don't know, it nullifies their gravitas. Let's put it that way. Okay, now I started yesterday. I gave up on it. I started reading this whole thing about, I'm a physicist at CERN. We've done something that we shouldn't have, and I've gone through it, and the whole thing just seems like a science fiction story. So, the time we have left. Now let's talk about Texas. Texas is a weird place. I used to live in Texas. I went to school in Texas. I had to go back and forth between the amazing Shangri-La that we call Southern California and the beaches of the South Bay here to Houston, which is basically like it's a wart on the ass of Lucifer himself, is all I can say. And I told you I had this weird experience because primarily my mother was insane. And when my parents got divorced, I went from going to Irish Catholic schools where I was beaten up by big Irish nuns to then going to Lutheran schools where I got beaten up by big German nuns. And then I bounced back between California and Texas, which is never any fun. Because when you come from Texas to California, you get beaten up in school because they think you're a redneck. And when you come from California over to Texas, you get beaten up in school because they all think you're queer. Even though you say, the only thing come from Texas is steers and queers. Hey, don't see no horns on you, boy. So Texas is a weird place. Texas makes you tough. It makes you mean. I went from like a private school in California to a school in Texas I'm not kidding. I got out of military school and I went to this one-room schoolhouse where there was 22 people in the school. American Heritage School that was set up by kind of a bunch of John Birch Society friends of my parents. To then going to Texas where we had 3,500 kids in the school, where everybody took PE at the same time, where the coaches had an office, and if you got caught in a towel fight, which was me, you got the bubbles beaten out of you with a big stick. It was a big cricket bat that they put holes in so that there was no air resistance on its way from a pretty good sized distance to your behind. And the spankings were delivered right before. Hello. Yeah, I hear you. Spankings were delivered like right before PE. So you had to do that walk of shame. All right, I'm about ready to talk about Texas, but I'll take a call. 518, what's on your mind? Hey, buddy, how you doing? I hear your TV in the background. If you can turn that off, that would certainly help me. 516. Okay. Hey, how are you? What's on your mind?
It's Mark. I just wanted you to comment
on. What's up, man?
I wanted you to comment on this Obama giving a pardon to the Israeli spy.
Oh crap! Did he do that?
Yep.
Did he do it already?
November, the guy will be released. Going to have 5 years.
Hello. Yep.
He's still there. I think his audio cut out. I don't believe he pardoned him. He's just not doing anything to stop the fact that he's up.
He's up for parole. Okay, all right.
Say that.
No, but wait. I saw the parole was going to happen on November 20th or something. It's
okay.
Done deal.
Okay, I have not seen that. That would probably
WhatReallyHappened.com. They got 2 or 3 articles on it if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, I did an entire tirade on this last week when I went into great detail as to what was behind Jonathan Pollard. So I'm not sure if I should repeat that, but that's disgusting.
No, you don't have to repeat it. It's just I just find it amazing. This is all to basically smooth out the Iranian thing.
Yeah, I guess it was. And why is it exactly that on the one hand, the only bone he's throwing to them is, okay, I'll release a I'll release a spy who committed a crime 30 plus years ago because they really wanted Pollard released. But, again, Pollard is, if there was anything right with this country, Pollard should have been hung as a traitor. I mean, for treason.
Exactly.
He should have been hung for treason. And as I said, I'm intimate with this story because Jonathan Pollard, who tried to claim that, Israel is my homeland. He was getting paid $2 million a year to rat out his country, to basically rat fink his country to the Israelis. He was controlled by master spy Rafi Atain. And TRW was a gigantic target here because we were building all the missile systems. We were building all the top secret submarine systems. According to Casper Weinberger, who came out of retirement to testify against Pollard, saying that Jonathan Pollard was responsible for dismantling the defense, the intercontinental ballistic missile systems and the nuclear submarine systems of this entire country, which we handed to the Israelis. And of course, because the Israelis are such good buddies of ours, they took all the stuff and sold it to the highest bidder. And who are the highest bidders? The Chinese and the Russians. Now, as this entire thing goes down, the fact that Obama once again is pardoning, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Casper Weinberger again saying this man is the worst spy. He said since Benedict Arnold as a traitor, and number two, quite possibly the worst spy and did more damage with this type of espionage than any spy in the history of the United States. And instead of being shot and or hung as the Constitution demands, this guy's walking free possibly in November. Now, he has spent 35 plus years in jail. But, he's going to move to Israel, be allowed to move to Israel and be worshipped there as some kind of big hero. And I might also point out that Rafi Atain, who is the master spy who handled the Falcon and the Snowman, if anybody wants to see that, because they also tagged TRW at the same time. It was the movie with Sean Penn and Timothy Bottoms. But there's a statue in Israel of Rafi Atain. And Rafi Atain also, it was interesting because Atain in 2003 got his hands on a piece of what was called the Promise 2 software, which was a disk that was handed to him by a U.S. agent by the name of Brick Bricklin. And Brick Bricklin, who gave him the Promise 2 software. The Promise 2 software, when you understand it, was the basis for everything we're using now that we call artificial intelligence. And Atain bragged in an email that he used that piece of software to shut down from a motel room using the internet to shut down an Ohio substation, which he claims caused the blackout on the entire East Coast on August 13th or 14th. It blacked out New York for 3 days and blacked out big chunks of the East Coast for about 28 days or so. Now, it just so happened that supposedly the USS Eldridge was bouncing through time and came to the end of its tether at that particular moment in time, which is an article that I wrote a bunch of stuff predicting. But as far as this goes, as far as Jonathan Pollard goes, I went in chapter and verse detail about what this guy had done last week, and if it looks like now.
Just so you know, it's on CNN Politics. It says right here, convicted spy for Israel, Jonathan Pollard, has been granted parole and will be released from an American jail on November 21st. His lawyer announced Tuesday.
There you go. Exactly 30 years after his arrest, I got the story in front of me. Could help ease the tensions between the U.S. and Israel. Why it would help ease the tension between the United States and Israel when we're talking about, once again, the worst spy in American history who was spying supposedly for the Israelis, just gives you an idea.
Who runs the country?
That Israel, again, is not our friend? Is this just supposed to prove, again, that when Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to Pollard's wife, Esther, that he's on a first-name basis with Pollard's wife, saying, consistently in his time in prison, I consistently raised the issue of his release in my meetings and conversations with the leadership of the U.S. We are looking forward to his release. Really, this guy is the worst criminal in American history when it comes to espionage, and the Israelis are all excited that he's going to be let go. And people wonder why we bag on the Israelis on this show. But I bet Alex Jones is going to say, he's a big hero. Finally, the Israeli hero is going to be released. Brr. So, good for them. Anyway, so whatever.
Sure, be good. I know you're going to close out the show.
All right, good talking to you. Thanks.
Good talking.
Texas. Let me talk about Texas when I got the chance here. So once again, talking about Texas, where in New York it's I Heart New York. In Vermont, Vermont's for lovers. In California, it's California, open your golden gates. Texas is the only state that has a motto that's basically a threat of assault and battery, which is don't mess with Texas. because Texans are so fed up with the federal government's overreach that they are now considering taking some drastic measures as a means of reclaiming their sovereignty and independence. And there was an interview that was done with by American Free Press on June 24th where they reached out to an attorney and small business owner in Hood County and part of the Texas Tea Party member, a man named Dave Eagle, to elaborate. On June 12th, a new law was passed by the Texas state legislature and signed by Governor Greg Abbott, Republican, setting up a Texas gold depository to hold the state's gold, which is worth nearly $1 billion. Now, the measure reflects the state's growing distrust of the Federal Reserve. By the way, in Jade Helm 15, Texas is listed as hostile territory. I wonder why. Well, pretty much it's hostile territory to pretty much everybody, but don't mess with Texas. If nothing else, quote, if nothing else, they should let us inspect their vaults for ourselves to ensure that the Fed and their cronies haven't moved our gold somewhere else, said Eagle. Meanwhile, the government tells us, don't pay attention to that man behind the curtain, but we simply don't trust them. Joanne Fleming, legislative chair for the watchdog group Grassroots America, We the People, concurred, quote, returning our gold to Texas was an issue first raised by Governor Rick Perry, but we never got it back. By logical conclusion, Ms. Fleming extended the idea of taking control of their state's finances to protecting their border. Quote, the people of Texas are fed up with playing around with our border. We're seeking an interstate compact in which member states would enforce laws that the federal government ignores. Laredo Border Patrol Agent Hector Garza and the Texas Sheriff's Association have testified that criminal elements crossing into our state don't stay on the border. We're being overrun with gangs, drug dealers, and human traffickers, yet the feds continue their catch and release policies. Oh, yeah, and Donald Trump is wrong, right? And then there's the matter of massive military exercises in the United States. Jade Helm 15. When asked why Abbott dispatched Texas State Guard members to monitor the U.S. military in Texas, Ms. Fleming responded, quote, if you look at maps for Jade Helm, the Obama administration categorized Texas as a hostile territory. I don't want to believe that the U.S. military would harm its own citizens, but Texans just don't trust the government and are suspicious of them, especially when they see our liberties being eroded. Now, Eagle actually said the same thing. When it comes to the issues of states' rights, we should be free to take care of Texas rather than waiting for governments to take over. We're starting to push back. We come to the conclusion that we're giving up on the federal government. Good for them. And again, please remember, and Rick Perry said this, Texas, under the Treaty of Hidalgo, is only a state in the Union. Matter of fact, it is not a state. It is a republic. It is an actual republic. California used to be a republic, but then the feds just came in and just took it over. We actually had two presidents, had the whole thing. We're a full-blown republic. And then the feds went, nope, mine. But Texas, that never happened to. So they sign a treaty every 2 years, ceremonially, mind you. And Rick Perry said, all we have to do is not sign that treaty. And they are out of the, quote, Union of the United States. And by the way, since we're talking about Texas and the South, according to Chuck Baldwin, the current war on the Confederate flag and all symbols of the South just confirms the prophetic words of Confederate General Patrick Clyburn. And I've read them on this show before, but I'll point it out again. In 1864, the general warned that if the South lost the war, he said, quote, it means that the history of this heroic struggle will be written by the enemy and that our youth will be trained by Northern school teachers, will learn from Northern school books their version of the war, will be impressed by all the influences of history and education and regard our gallant defenders as traitors and our maimed veterans as fit subjects for derision. And indeed, brainwashers have now flooded America's public schools with propaganda against the people who attempted to win independence from the United States, characterizing them as haters, just as the federal government and mass media seek to characterize, white people, Christians, patriots, constitutionalists, preppers, anybody who prepares for a commercial or societal breakdown, or basically anybody who wants to be left alone must somehow hate everybody else. So instead of lowering the Confederate flag, I still think we should be raising it. And the bottom line is the Confederate flag they're all upset about is the wrong flag. It was never the flag of the South. It's a battle flag. They really wanted to raise something. It's got a blue field. It's got a big red stripe, big white stripe in the middle, and a big red stripe on the bottom, which is actually called the Stars and Bars. It's the Confederate flag also is not rectangular. It's a big square. It's a battle flag of a particular regiment of General Lee.